The mechanism by which souls reach heaven remains unknown. However, it is understood that the ticket leading there is final, with no option for return. It signifies mortality. While there exists modes of transportation that ascend and appear to reach the sky, such as airplanes, none of them actually reach the sky. They only ascend into the air until they reach the clouds. Considering this scenario, envision yourself having taken a flight, and upon reaching your destination, realizing that you face a rendezvous with death. Eerie. Today's criminal narrative focuses on Mackenzie Lueck, who vanished after taking a flight from LA to Salt Lake City, Utah. Rather than reaching her intended destination, she met a tragic end, being brutally murdered. Be sure to watch until the end to ensure you don't miss any details of this bone-chilling story. Salt Lake City, Utah is renowned for being one of the safest cities in the country, with minimal levels of violence and crime. This has led many to view it as a promised land, attributed to the peaceful and secure environment in which residents reside. Despite its tranquility and rarity of criminal incidents, however, it is not exempt from the realities of the world, where crime exists regardless of the peaceful nature of a place. In June 2019, this ostensibly tranquil city became the focal point of a heinous crime that not only unsettled Utah, but also reverberated throughout the entire U.S. Mackenzie Lueck's father reported her missing after failing to hear from her after she landed in Salt Lake City. She'd been in Los Angeles to visit her father and family. Despite his attempts to contact her, she did not respond to any calls. Concerned about her well-being, her father contacted authorities on June 17th, 3 days after her arrival, as she had still not been in touch. He requested a welfare check at her apartment.
Yeah, I'd like to get, if possible, have a wellness check done on my daughter. And I've been trying to get a hold of her, and her phone just tends to go to voicemail. I was just wondering if I could have somebody maybe go by her house and check on her.
But to everyone's surprise, she wasn't there. Officers inquired with her neighbors about her whereabouts, but no one had any relevant information. Given the gravity of the situation, a search mission was initiated to find her. Who was Mackenzie Lueck, and what was her purpose for being in Utah? 23-year-old Mackenzie Speth Lueck was born in California on March 8, 1996. She hailed from a large family, being the second of 4 siblings. From a young age, she excelled in academics and sports, particularly swimming and water polo, her favorites. The decision that ultimately led to her tragic fate was a choice to transfer to the University of Utah. There, she excelled as a student, pursuing studies in kinesiology and pre-nursing. At the time of her passing, she was also employed at a biological testing firm in Salt Lake City. Her accomplishments had paved the way for a promising future, as she aspired to pursue a career as a healthcare specialist. Her ambition was not only fueled by her academic achievements, but also by her strong determination to further her education and attain a more advanced degree in the field of health sciences. Indeed, some individuals argue that during that period, Mackenzie was seeking guidance to determine whether to pursue a complete nursing career or ultimately opt for studying medicine. Undoubtedly, her passion lay within the field of healthcare. It's noteworthy that Mackenzie originated from a Mormon family. Consequently, she frequently participated in the services of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This background likely influenced her choice to pursue studies and reside in Utah. Notably, Salt Lake City, the state's capital, is focused around the Temple Block, which serves as the central location for the headquarters of the church. So, the city aligned seamlessly with her professional aspirations and religious convictions, providing her with the most fulfilling and joyful experiences of her early adulthood. Little did she suspect that her life would soon meet a tragic and sinister end in this very place. Following her visit to California, Mackenzie returned to Utah on June 17, 2019, arriving around 1:30 a.m. The young woman informed her family of her safe arrival through a text, marking her final communication before her sudden disappearance. Following that message, Mackenzie refrained from sending any further messages or responding to the numerous calls her family attempted to make to her over the next 3 days. Furthermore, she failed to reach her intended destination, prompting both her family and law enforcement to question her whereabouts after departing the airport. At her father's insistence, police proceeded to Mackenzie's apartment, where they found no evidence of her return. A disconnected phone, an undisturbed car, and the absence of personal belongings suggested she had not been present for several days. Additionally, there were no reports of sightings of her from her neighbors. The authorities promptly proceeded to the airport to examine security camera footage to retrace the path taken by the young woman that day, aiming to discover a clue that could reveal her current location. In the final images captured of the young woman, there were no indications in her behavior suggesting any imminent or negative events. She appeared calm, and her last communication with family and friends did not raise any concerns or suggest anything unusual. Consequently, her sudden disappearance evolved into a genuine enigma. Mackenzie's family, friends, acquaintances, and colleagues collaborated to search for her. Mackenzie was not known to vanish without informing anyone, leading everyone to suspect that something unfortunate had happened. Her prolonged absence of any communication, including no activity on social media, further heightened concerns among those who knew her. In reviewing the security camera footage, police observed that the young woman departed the airport that morning using an Uber. Subsequently, the police's next course of action involved locating that driver to inquire about the destination where Mackenzie was taken that day, and to ascertain whether or not the driver was possibly involved in her disappearance. Thus, the Uber driver became the primary suspect in her disappearance. However, he was questioned and subsequently eliminated as a suspect. He acknowledged transporting Mackenzie and reported that she had requested to be dropped off at Hatch Park. He had expressed surprise at her choice of location at that time of day, prompting him to inquire, "Are you genuinely wanting to be dropped off there?" Upon being asked, she immediately agreed without much consideration, explaining that she was going to meet a friend. Upon dropping her off, the driver did not observe anything unusual. He departed, leaving her alone in the park with a person she introduced as her friend.
It's something I marked it as odd, but didn't really think of it that much until the police contacted me. When I got there, it didn't seem to be off or anything. And she actually said, "Boy, this, because in the conversation, something was like, well, that's strange." But she said, "Not as strange as where you're dropping me off, is in the middle of a park." So she actually brought that up and said that it was odd that she was being dropped off there. So dropped off people in stranger places. Around town. So it's something I marked it as odd, but didn't really think of it that much until the police contacted.
Given that the Uber driver was not involved in her disappearance, who was that friend? The answer was discovered on her cell phone. It was determined that Mackenzie had been communicating with an individual named Ayula Ajay that morning to coordinate a meeting. Evidence from her cell phone indicated that the two had exchanged final messages at 2:58 in the morning, just a minute before she was dropped off at the park. Upon acquiring this information, authorities initiated a search for Ajay. Upon finding him, they proceeded with an interrogation, during which he denied any acquaintance with Mackenzie. He asserted that he'd never engaged in any online communication with her, and furthermore had never met her in person. Police were aware that this was untruthful. However, establishing his direct involvement in conversation with Mackenzie proved challenging, given that anyone could possibly assume his identity and impersonate him. Despite that, authorities did not exclude him as a potential suspect and proceeded with their investigation. Some of Ajay's neighbors reported that between June 17 and 18, he had unexpectedly started a fire in the backyard of his residence. Neighbors also mentioned that they had raised concerns about the smoke, which spread to several nearby houses. They warned Ajay that if he did not extinguish the fire, they would contact the police. Upon hearing that, he apparently got nervous and defensive and attempted to extinguish the fire. As he requested them not to contact the police, it became apparent that Ajay was concealing something, specifically the corpse of Mackenzie, which he had roasted over a campfire. A search warrant was obtained, and authorities proceeded to search Ajay's home on June 27th, 10 days after Mackenzie's mysterious disappearance. Upon inspecting the suspect's residence, they were able to gather evidence indicating that the young woman had been present in the house, and that Ajay was likely responsible for her disappearance.
Yeah, they didn't give me the search warrant. I authorized it before. And then when they said the search warrant, have the search warrant in hand. Can I borrow your phone then to call my lawyer?
I'm going to give you her phone number right now. You remember her name? When we went that?
Susanna.
Yep.
Is there anyone else in there?
Go check it.
Let's make sure.
What's your police guy?
Throw the gloves.
You're gonna wait until the search warrant gets here?
You can search warrant get here. But not say it's going out. So you search warrant get here.
We're not going to search anything. We're doing this.
Clear in this room, clear in the bathroom. They are scrolling through my phone. Without the warrant, they are going through my phone.
You done with the phone?
Thank you, sir.
You wanna? No garage, no house, no car. I'm not.
The update, man. We'll call it.
I have no update.
You're like mailbox, man.
By the way, we both got our best.
I look like what?
You're like the mailbox. USPS.
Oh, that's
I am USPS. Like we said, as soon as we know something, I'll tell you, okay?
I better hope he's not the postal service. That means he's going to raise his rates every day, not be efficient.
Exactly. Did you say you're going to which library?
It's a library down this road.
Oh, on the other side of the freeway.
Yeah.
West?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a new one, right?
Yeah, it's very new. It has couch that I can just sleep. But I will be there, and I don't have a phone, but if you guys walk in, I will sit where you can see me.
Okay.
I will tell them, and maybe they'll send me to pick you up if they see if you want to come back.
The police officer picking me up there.
In my nice red Camry. But if you pee in it, I'll take you to jail.
But I have to pee.
All right, AJ.
Good luck, man.
So is that where you'll probably be?
Yeah, unless you want me to stay, I'm happy to stay.
No, you're welcome to leave if you want to. If we wanted to come talk to you, is that where you think you'll be?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
Spending a couple $100 on trees.
What's going on, man?
So, detectives are ready to talk to you about everything that's going on real fast, so if you want to come, I'll give you right back to the house real quick.
But there's Fox News over there.
I know, I'm going to drive you back in my car. It's a Camry, so...
But,
We'll stay away from the news.
Yeah, we're not going to go by the news. We don't
but
talk.
I don't want my face on the news.
I will do that so it does, okay? So stand up real quick.
We're just going to...
Oh, yeah, are you arresting me or something?
No. Stand up.
Then why are you...
You're going to be detained for a little bit.
You're being detained, but just for a second, okay? I got to put you in handcuffs just while we're driving.
Per policy, we're
policy.
We're just going to go talk to detectives for a little bit.
Why are you detaining me?
Because you need to talk to detectives, and I need to transport you back. So my policy says every time someone's in my car, they will wear handcuffs. So that's why they're...
But there's a news over there.
They can come right back.
We're probably not going to take... We'll take you to another spot so you're not by the news.
Okay?
We should hung up
How
on
did
it.
the news find out?
We were one of the same...
Upon gathering multiple pieces of evidence suggesting the presence of a crime within the residence, a laboratory analysis was conducted to ascertain the presence of Mackenzie's DNA. Human tissue was discovered scattered around the house. This discovery heightened concerns amongst the authorities. Subsequently, it was confirmed that the skin remains belonged to Mackenzie, as did charred objects discovered by investigators on the grounds. On June 28th, Ajay, then 31 years old, was arrested and charged with aggravated kidnapping, aggravated murder, and desecration of a corpse. Despite his arrest and the discovery of the human remains, police had not yet located all of the remains of the young woman. It's essential to understand the identity of Ayoola Ajay. He originated from Nigeria and, upon arrival in North America as a student, pursued studies at Utah State University for several years. However, in 2012, he was expelled from campus due to a combination of issues, including visa complications and allegations of theft involving an iPad. Despite these circumstances, Ajay was readmitted to campus in 2015 upon resolving the issues. It appears that his previous behavior of residing in unauthorized accommodations was overlooked, allowing him unrestricted access to university premises. Ajay pursued studies in computer science but did not complete the program. With his proficient computer skills, he pursued a career in information technology and briefly served in the Army National Guard. According to prosecutors, he and Luke reportedly first encountered each other in 2018 on a dating platform known as Buscando Arrangement. This website is described as a platform that facilitates connections between individuals seeking a sugar daddy and sugar babies. Perhaps Mackenzie was initially seeking a benefactor for financial support, but ultimately she encountered a malevolent murderer. Prior to the murder of Mackenzie, Ajay was already contemplating becoming a heinous and perverse murderer. According to a contractor, in April 2019, Ajay requested the construction of a concealed, soundproof chamber beneath his front porch. These specifications included wall hooks at head height and a fingerprint scanner for access. Ajay informed the contractor that he intended to use the room to conceal alcohol from his Mormon girlfriend, without disclosing his actual sadistic motives. Nevertheless, the contractor expressed discomfort with the request and declined to proceed.
That his girlfriend was coming into town and needed to get it done before she got there because she was a Mormon girl. She didn't know he drank, so he wanted to hide her alcohol from her. And I was like, well, why do you need it to be soundproof?
Furthermore, a domestic cleaner reported observing numerous cameras in Ajay's residence, particularly in the master bedroom, indicating his inclination to record sexual encounters. This evidence suggests that Ajay was not only a thief and a depraved murderer, but also a compulsive sexual offender. In fact, on June 17th, the night of the murder, Ajay deactivated the security video system in his residence with the intention of preventing any record of his victim's presence. And Melanie Luke was not the first individual to become ensnared in Ajay's sadistic and unsettling web. Prior to the murder of Luke, Ajay engaged in a sexual assault against a woman he'd met on a dating app. That assault took place on March 10, 2018, in his residence. The victim managed to escape the attack alive, transforming what was anticipated to be a romantic encounter into a harrowing experience. While watching television on a couch, Ajay initiated intense kissing and then attempted inappropriate and forceful physical contact. He then attempted to engage in non-consensual sexual activity with the woman. Despite her efforts to escape, he restrained her and bit her multiple times, resulting in significant pain and bruising. However, she was able to break free and escape. According to the police in North Logan, Utah, Ajay had also been investigated in connection with a 2014 rape. However, that alleged victim did not press charges, allowing Ajay to remain free and potentially plan further assaults on women. However, it appears he had managed to evade legal consequences on multiple occasions. His ex-wife accused him in the past of making threats to abduct and murder her. Consequently, she ceased communication with him and took measures to hide herself and her children. She described Ajay as a violent individual who exhibited extreme aggression when his demands were not met. Following her ex-husband's incarceration, she finally emerged from seclusion to recount her harrowing experiences. She had married a Jay in Dallas in 2011 when she was pregnant with her youngest son. She indicated that she'd been introduced to him by his godmother, who had spoken highly of him for a long time, portraying him as a very good man. Their first meeting took place at the godmother's residence. However, unbeknownst to her, a Jay concealed a monstrous nature behind the facade of an ideal man. At the onset of the relationship, she expressed delight as he presented himself as kind and highly attentive. He showed concern not only for her, but also for her children. She mentioned that he consistently assisted her with her financial obligations. The relationship between them developed as they provided support for each other, including rent and the children's needs, culminating in a marriage a few months later. As the first year of marriage unfolded, a dynamic shift arose. At certain points, the husband, feeling overwhelmed by his parental responsibilities, suggested relocating to another city without the children. However, the wife, prioritizing her duty as a mother, refused to abandon her children. She further shared that it was not permissible for her to depart and abandon her life, occupation, and all of the accomplishments she had already established. Ajay then started to exhibit signs of distress and revealed his authentic personality. He gradually decreased his financial assistance to his wife, and there were instances where he raised his voice and became upset over trivial matters. The situation escalated to the point where he resorted to physical violence against her. During their last altercation, Ajay threatened to kill his wife and attempted to strangle her with a telephone cord. When she tried to flee, he barricaded the door. In a desperate move, she broke one of the windows and fled, sustaining cuts from the glass in the process. Despite injuring himself, Ajay persisted in chasing her with a knife and wounding her, but fortunately she managed to escape. Meanwhile, he successfully evaded capture. She now regrets not having filed a police report, as doing so may have prevented Ajay from further abusing and mistreating other women. At the time, she believed that the most appropriate course of action was to relocate with her children and hide. She chose to distance herself from the aggressive man by avoiding phone calls and work, effectively disappearing from his life. However, when he faced arrest and new criminal accusations, she made the decision to come forward and share her story. In Mackenzie's case, he was compelled to acknowledge his culpability due to the huge amount of incriminating evidence against him. Despite initially denying knowing the victim, the discovery of various photos of her on his cell phone and other evidence in his residence left him with no option but to abandon pretense. Subsequently, he disclosed the location where he'd interred the victim after perpetrating the crime, revealing that he had buried her remains and some of her possessions in his backyard, while others had been disposed of in the Jordan River. The perpetrator disclosed that he had exhumed the victim's remains from his yard the day after the murder, subsequently burning them. He then transferred the remains from his residence to Logan Canyon. There, he purportedly buried the charred body parts of Mackenzie in a wooded area, asserting that he had dug a superficial grave. On July 3rd, after an extensive search effort, law enforcement discovered a burnt human body precisely where Ajay had identified. 2 days later, on July 5, authorities confirmed that the recovered body belonged to Lueck, as determined by the medical examiner. The trial of Ajay was initially set for March 12, 2020. However, it was postponed to allow prosecutors additional time to scrutinize evidence before providing it to Ajay's defense attorneys. Ajay ultimately pleaded guilty to first-degree aggravated murder and third-degree desecration of a human body. Providing an account of the crime, he stated the following: "After meeting in a park, we proceeded to my residence where I restrained her by tying her hands behind her back using zip ties and a rope. Subsequently, I attempted to strangle her manually. However, upon her pleas to stop and release her, I complied. To avoid alerting neighbors, he subdued her by placing her face down and using a belt to strangle her until she ceased to move. The girl's harrowing death was even more alarming than the killer's account, as forensic analysis revealed that Mackenzie had experienced blunt force trauma to the left side of her head. It was revealed that she had a portion of her scalp missing and a 5-centimeter hole in her skull. Consequently, her demise was marked by trauma and pain. Autopsy results indicated that the blunt force trauma to the left side of her skull resulted in a brain hemorrhage, ultimately leading to her death. According to District Attorney Sim Gill, a J committed the murder of Mackenzie with the intention of experiencing the sensation of killing. Prior to the admission of guilt, prosecutors, in conjunction with their colleagues, opted to dismiss the charges of aggravated kidnapping and obstruction of justice. That decision effectively precluded the potential for the death sentence. According to the district attorney, the admission of guilt through the pleas enabled Luke's parents to initiate the process of seeking justice. On October 23, 2020, 3rd District Judge Vernice Trees rendered the final verdict, sentencing a J to life in prison with no chance of parole. A J also received a 5-year prison sentence for the desecration of Luke's body. Prior to sentencing, a J offered an apology in court. However, Gill expressed skepticism to the media, suggesting that he perceived insincerity in a J's apology. Quite frankly, he seemed to have taken a sense of satisfaction in the act of killing the girl. Luke's parents issued a statement expressing their sorrow, mentioning that they would never witness their only daughter getting married or having children. Her father explicitly stated, quote, "Our daughter Mackenzie Lueck was a sweet and amazing young woman with the world ahead of her. She was a kind-hearted person who cared about others, and now we won't have the opportunity to see her flourish in life." Luke's cousin also made a few brief statements, expressing that her death was a nightmare, the kind from which you cannot awake. He also added that he would never be able to forgive what had happened to her, stating, quote, "I will never forgive the monster that took my cousin's life. Never in my life have I felt anger like I have in the last 16 months. I have never been so afraid for my life as I am today when I realize how real evil is in this world." Ajay was also charged with 19 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor after police found numerous pornographic photographs of children on his computer. The photos allegedly showed kids as young as ages 4 and 8. Ajay pleaded not guilty to the child pornography charges, and since there was insufficient evidence, the judge decided to dismiss those charges. But even if he wasn't found guilty of pedophilia, this man is clearly a perverted sadist on every level. After all, what man in his right mind keeps child pornography pictures on his cell phone? Ajay ultimately wrote a book called Forge Identity, in which 2 characters appear and are killed and burned. The book was initially for sale on Amazon. However, when they discovered who the author was, they removed it from the platform promptly. Though it is no longer available for sale, there is a Facebook page with photos of Ajay promoting his book. And so we come to the end of this tragic story. We hope you've learned your lesson. Never meet a stranger from a dating app in a lonely place in the middle of the night. You never know their true intentions, and you could end up like Mackenzie Lueck. If you want to enjoy more shocking stories like this one, we invite you to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any. With that said, I bid you farewell, and I'll see you for the next story.